we're back. You're listening to The Morning Wake Up, only on WKZZ. This is DJ RC, and live on the line, I have Mr. B. Reith. B, how are you doing this morning, man?
I'm doing wonderful, man. How about yourself?
I'm good. It's an honor to be interviewing you today. I'm a big fan.
Oh, appreciate that, bro.
Okay, so you're originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, right?
That's correct, yeah.
How in the world did a guy from Milwaukee, Wisconsin get into Christian hip-hop? Well, hip-hop, period.
Right. You know, I grew up in a diverse, I went to a diverse school, man, and I had the privilege of being around different kinds of people. I went to a public school, and so I was exposed to hip-hop in 8th grade, and for some reason, I don't know what it is, and looking back, it makes more sense, but that's what I was drawn to. And even growing up in a musical family with my dad, during my high school years, I loved hip-hop. So that was kind of like infused in me at a young age. And then through college and coming out of college, I just embraced all kinds of music, and it kind of shaped me to be more of a broad artist, and especially moving down to Nashville. But during those formative years, that's the thing that kind of just, I fell in love with it, you know.
Well, who were some of your influences?
Well, the early years I couldn't really get by explicit stuff, so I was getting my hands on like Pete Rock and Feel Smooth, and I was mainly watching, you know, videos, so because I couldn't buy the stuff, so it was everything, and just the top 10 of the early 90s hip-hop, you know. So, and then after that, you know, Kanye's early stuff really hit me strong. Jay-Z's early stuff before, like, I liked stuff before rappers got rich and had nothing to say, you know, when they were still struggling and talking about their struggle, Common, and mostly the stuff coming out of, you know, East Coast Brooklyn, that lyricism is always what I've been drawn to. So, yeah.
So, not only are you a rapper, but you sing as well. So, did rapping or singing come first?
Yeah, singing was definitely first. I don't know what, but I was born and I could sing. You know, I was even singing on commercials as early as the age of 5. My dad got me to sing on a commercial, and so I grew up singing in church and in school, and it was a natural gift, and you know, I didn't know what that meant as far as a career, but it was just a gift that I used. And then the as far as the ability to rap, I probably wrote my first official like rap in 8th grade. So that came along a little later.
So, okay, in 2003, you know, you released your first project, Urgent Message, which was done completely independently. Then in 2008, you signed with Toby Mac's label Goatee and released 2 EPs, and then your second full album, Now Is Not Forever. So now you're completely independent again, and you release your third project, How the Story Ends. So do you find it easier for artists to do things independently or to be signed with a label?
Yeah, I don't think first of all, the term easy can't be applied on either side. I feel like both are making great art. First of all, is an immense challenge. Now, I don't want it to be overwhelming and, you know, bog people down, but I just feel like, especially as a believer in Jesus, like the task at hand it's kind of easy in that it flows, you know what I mean? It's not like you have to force it, but I have learned over the years that there has to be a point, whether signed or unsigned, you have to kind of try to kick down doors. And so for me, I feel like being independent, it's easier in the way that I don't have to walk hand in hand with a company, and the speed at which they are willing to walk either holds me back or pulls me forward. I'm able to kind of operate as a small business mindset. Like today, case in point, if I want to put on a song I did with Molly Music, we're just releasing it. There's no strings attached, you know. But the thing that's more difficult about being independent is that unless if you're with a label that's not going to do anything, but if you are with a label that is going to help in some kind of way, then yes. It's me and my manager, and other people aren't tied into what I'm doing, so they can help, but at the end of the day, they're not going to bed thinking about Reith. So I can't say that one's easier than the other. I would definitely say being independent, it's like dating, man. Like being with the wrong girl, being single is way better than being with the wrong person,
True.
So being independent is way better than being with the wrong label. I know that for sure.
What about in terms of artistry? Do you find it easier to be independent because you get to do and release whatever you want without needing the permission of a label?
Yeah, I definitely think being independent cuts you from the pressure of having to, make a certain kind of sound, because bottom line, it's about dollars. So, like, label, you're talking about a big company now. You have to make all the more money to survive, to thrive. So, artistically, when it's just me, and it's just me releasing music directly to people via, even if it's just internet download, there's no ties. There's not all these kind of rules and regulations or stipulations that will keep me from being free-flowing as an artist. So, like for me, as a rapper and as a singer, having kind of a mainstream influence, having a pop sound, it was very difficult for a label conventionally to say, all right, here we're going to put out a record and we're going to do this, and that. Whereas independently, I can just be like, no, free download, here you go. And I know you can do that with labels, but I think it's just a little bit easier when you don't have the red tape involved.
Exactly. How did you get the attention of Toby Mac and get signed to Goatee?
Well, I was grinding for a long time, and I had self-produced like a 5-song demo, and I had met. What happened was I was serving at a camp here in Nashville at like this called Barefoot Republic Camp, and I just was a counselor there. I kind of got talked into it. I didn't even know what I was signing up for, and I was there one summer just working with kids, and it was one of the toughest but most incredible weeks of my life. And a producer that went to my church, but we had never really talked before, he was there as well. We started talking, we built a friendship, and I didn't realize that he's super connected here in Nashville. So I met with all the labels in town and sat down with Toby, and Toby and Goatee was the only label that I felt like would really embrace and let me grow and discover who I am. I had already discovered myself somewhat, but I think it's a never-ending process of finding your sound and evolving, and I felt like that was the safest place for me to evolve and grow, which was really important to me at that point in my career.
You recently did the Move Tour with Ambassador, The Truth, Jessica Reedy, Sean Simmons, and Jay. So how was that experience, and how did you get on board with that? I got connected to them through
originally it was the Misfit Tour last year with Molly Music, and almost the same lineup. I have played a show here in Nashville, a couple of shows over the years, and there's a promoter here. They were looking for another artist to fill the slot last minute last year, preferably a diverse, addition. And they recommended me, and so I got on the Misfit Tour, and it was great, and then the Move Tour was the follow-up, and it was awesome only because of that group of artists. I love them, and we get along so well, but unfortunately, the tour wasn't, I can't say it's a big success. It didn't turn out to being what, they had planned, and so that it was a setback, but it was something that I think we all learned from. And it happens a lot more than we find out about. There's a lot of tours that for whatever reason add the economy, add everything into the equation, and they don't always thrive. And so it was halfway successful. but it wasn't all the way successful. But I enjoyed it, and it was great being on the road with them and still connecting with fans and playing in, we did about 10 cities. So, still a good experience.
Yeah, I would think it, although it may not have been, successful financially, it was successful in establishing friendships and possible future endeavors.
Totally. The way God works is like, even if it crashes and burns, like I forget which song this is in. Oh, Next Move. It said, even if I crash and burn, I'll wake up tomorrow with a lesson learned. And, we stop ourselves from dreaming and hoping and aspiring to chase after God and after years of being let down. And failure can be good if we heal from it, but failure can be devastating if it produces just this fear. And so I definitely take those as, even in the bad, God still accomplishes like His will and His purpose. And sometimes it's so bad that it's just a learning lesson of like, wow, I'll never do that again, and that's still a positive experience, even if it's negative, So,
while traveling on tour, 9 times out of 10, there's bound to be something that goes wrong. So, with that being said, what has been your most embarrassing moment on tour?
Well, there's humorous, embarrassing stories, like when I, in a funny way, we had this, on Toby Mac's tour, we would jump on this trampoline, and I underestimated the launch of the trampoline, and in an effort to not land on Toby, it wasn't a horrible fall, it was a humorous fall. It was kind of like a spin, twirl, roll on my back fall, so, but I think when you talk about like embarrassing, humbling, it wasn't even a tour. I was booked to play at this kind of outdoor water park thing, and we drove down. And long story short, I was the headliner, and the guy organizing it I don't know what he was thinking, but right before I went on, he dismissed the kids. I didn't even perform. Like, he dismissed the kids to go into the water park. And so, long story short, he had messed up, and he said he didn't see me, but I was standing right there. But he then later confessed that they were running out of time, and he didn't know what to do. And so you just talk about humbling scenarios where you're like, yo, I came down here to perform, and so we worked it out, but it was definitely more of a trusting God in spite of my anger moment,
Well,
and laying it down and forgiving.
Well, did you still get paid for it?
We did. Oh yeah.
Well,
I'm at the point in my career, thank God that I've paid enough dues over the many years that I've done this, that we're in a position where we're protected. Now, there are tours are the ones where you end up not getting paid because promoters get in trouble. They don't have any money to pay you with. I have tons of friends that this has happened to, and it's a huge problem in the industry, especially, not to blast Christian promoters, but they're good-intending people, well-intending people that kind of don't learn how to promote. And artists end up in situations all the time. They go out and they do a show and they do everything right, sign all the paper, and then, hey man, we don't have any money to pay you, So that happens.
Now, earlier I mentioned you have your first album, Urgent Message, which was, like I said, was done independently, and then you have 2 EPs, a second album, Now It's Not Forever. You have your third album, How the Story Ends, and then you have another mixtape that came out not too long ago, How the Story Continues, which is actually one of my favorite mixtapes in my whole iTunes collection. So, out of your entire Reith catalog, which song has been the most personal for you?
That's a great question. I think they all, it's like having babies. It's a really funny analogy, but like, to me, writing music is like giving birth, and it's a painful process, but I love, and it's a challenging process, but I still love it. And so all of them have their own unique kind of, I treasure each of them in their own way, you know. And I think, to me, the most, I can't say the most, but one of the, just from a lyrical standpoint of what it means the most to me when I sing it, is Not Who I Am, which is more of a folksy song. Only because at the core of what I wrestle with is identity and living out this life that Paul talked about in Romans, where the thing I want to do, I don't do. It's like I'm constantly just challenged every day by almost living out this life. Like, this is not who I really am. What am I doing? You know, and so when I sing that song, man, I really feel it, you know, in my core, and just very proud of how it came out melodically. And so that's one of them for sure. Stylistically, I think Mess is one of the biggest winners for me, because it has the pop chorus, but it has the rap verse, and I feel like that's one of the most distinguishing songs that I've written that kind of sets me apart from other artists.
See, now I have to tell you, since, you know, this is like a once-in-a-lifetime interview going on, out of all the songs from you that I've heard, it seems like the one that's had the most prolific effect on me was Breathe. So where did that song come from? How did it come about?
Yeah, I know most of us, if you're a human being and you've been alive for a long enough time, you've been affected by a letdown, you know. And I was sitting in my room and things just weren't panning out, you know. I thought by this point in my life I would have probably been a little bit further along, but obstacles and just letdowns are just kind of, you know. And so I was sitting in my room and I really was overwhelmed with this thought of, like, this is not the life that I have planned. Like, this is, like, I had so much going. I thought by this point I would be so much further along, and, you know, not just musically, but just life. And so it was a broken place, you know, of being honest with where I was at and where I felt. But also in that brokenness, the invitation to my Creator, to the King of Kings, to my Father, to breathe His life into that, because it doesn't matter how much I really have going or how far or behind along I am. Ultimately, the renewing, the instant showing up of God in my imperfect situation, first of all, gives me the ability to continue on and have peace. But second of all, you know, He can make a way where there is no way. And, you know, and Isaiah talks about a stream in the wasteland. And I was at that point in life. And so it's a worship. It's a moment of inviting God into our desperate situation. So there is the brokenness there that it came out of.
This is not the life that I had planned. I'm standing on a patch of sinking sand. The man I thought I once would be is far from where I am, and this painstaking process is wearing me thin again. Breathe can't remember where it all went wrong. Before I knew it, all of me was gone. But when I lost it all, that's when my life truly began. And I found myself secure in the palm of your hand again. Come into this broken dream and breathe down on me. Breathe down on me. Sing yourself through a melody and breathe down on me. Breathe down on me. Come into this broken dream and breathe down on me. Breathe down on me. Sing yourself through a melody and breathe down on me. Breathe down on me. Breathe down on me. Breathe down on me. Won't you breathe on me? Won't you breathe on me? Breathe your breath of life. Won't you breathe on me?
Thinking back on your very first project, what advice would you give to the B. Reith that's just getting started in the industry, and to those who dream of getting that record deal, or dream of singing, or just a music career in general?
Yeah. Well, first thought is the balance between, guarding your heart. Out of it is the wellspring of life, protecting who you are, and then also holding all things loosely. There's like a balance between the two, because we can be overprotective of ourselves and of our heart, and you got to be willing to get hurt. Like, there's got to be a willingness to say, all right, I'm gonna put this song out here, and people might not like it, but you know what? It won't be the end of the world, and I'll learn from it. I'll keep going. As far as the first project, I did mine. I kind of live by this theme now. God kind of spoke it into my heart years ago, but it's success. On the front end, it's easier to look at success as making the most out of what you have, like where you are. Saying, this is what I have. Maybe it's a little bit, but I'm gonna rock the snot out of this. If all I have is this one little program, this recording program, or if all I know is 3 chords, well, I'm gonna do the best with these 3 chords, but I'm gonna learn more and more chords. And I would just say there's so much information I've accumulated, but just from a simple starting point, first of all, it's just I took my dad's gear in the basement of my house, and I just made songs where I was at, and I made sure that I loved them, that every one was as good as it could be. But at the same time, at some point, I had to pull the trigger and say, all right, I'm going to release this project. And for some people, your introduction, your first project, you feel like it's your introduction to the world, but only 1,000 people are going to hear it, And so it's hard, the balance between saying, all right, this is my representation to the world, but I can't say, it's a very tough spot if I were to say, to the young me, I feel like you got to discover it, you know. And it depends on where your talent level's at. Just real talk, you know. I like how The Voice, that show, is honest with people, but it depends on where you're at. And some artists need to spend a few years growing. Like, you don't become a doctor without going to school. Like, I'm a firm believer, like, you don't just become an artist without having to develop your skill. But it's different for everybody, you know. I challenge songwriters in that area. Some people just like to sing, so they're like, I don't really write music, so then it's a different kind of process to get there, you know. But definitely learn who you are, especially as a believer in Jesus. Learn what our identity is, but not just biblically who we are in Christ. Learn who you are stylistically and how God made you, and embrace that as part of your art. And just be where you are and ask God to give you wisdom daily, because it can be overwhelming.
Looking back over your career, have you ever had a moment where you were asked to somewhat water down your message or to change who you are to fit a certain demographic or to appeal to a certain audience? Not
directly. Nobody probably ever verbally said, but non-directly, yes. You know, we pitched songs to radio. I remember I thought that was a radio song, and they were like, well, it has horns in it, you know, and we don't really, the Christian music doesn't embrace horns. I think that's crazy, by the way, but that's real talk. And so, you know, things like that from a radio perspective, or, you know, subliminally. Really, when I first got started, and I was in Nashville, and I met with publishing companies and everybody, you know, everybody wants to throw in their 2 cents. And, you know, I remember somebody saying, man, I just love your voice. Like, you have an incredible voice. Like, I wish you would just sing more. You know, really what you're saying is you wish I would rap less, you know. But, like, there's been nonverbal more than the verbal. And then from a message standpoint, I don't know. I feel like I've fought so hard to earn credibility as an artist. I think people are hesitant to speak into it because, you know, it's pure. And I think, yeah, I've seen comments on YouTube and stuff or whatever, but I think people have come at me more from an angle like, I wish you would say Jesus more. You know, that I've gotten that more than I wish you would, you know, not sing about Jesus.
Well, that goes like right into my next question. What do you say to the people that may criticize you for, you know, having like a average fun song? Because, you know, listening to your album, you have some songs that do mention Jesus a lot, but then you have some what I consider like everyday songs that you listen to just riding down the street or just to put a smile on your face. So What do you say to those people that think Christian artists should only talk about Jesus and God 100%?
Yeah, I think that's a theological problem, like a disagreement. You know, I wouldn't argue, but I would definitely say I disagree with the theological belief that music is only sacred if it's talking about Jesus. God, one big part I think that we're missing, that a big part of the church is missing, is enjoying and desiring God. It's become more of a duty and a legality of, well, and so having fun and enjoying life and enjoying a sunset, enjoying a meal, it's become this duty thing. So, like, really, I believe that, you know, music is music. A song about people saying my name wrong, or a song about me seeing a girl in a coffee shop, or, you know, I think theologically to strip art of its freedom to just be expressive, I think it comes down to the heart of the writer. You know, only God will know what my intentions were when I wrote that song, and I know where I stand, you know. So I definitely challenge people, because I don't think people think about TV like that. You know, I know some people have a problem listening to like secular music, but I don't think they approach television in the same way. It's like, do you watch secular TV? You know, I don't understand how that works. How music is separated, or like movies, you know, it's like, is Spider-Man a non-Christian movie, you know, and like, how does that work? Some people probably go that far, but I think within music, there's like this thing of like, and I don't think a lot of people do. I think there's millions of people in the middle, but we just don't hear from them. We usually hear from the people who are more opinionated and outspoken. And so, as my brothers and sisters in Christ, I definitely am united. I'm not in opposition, but I'm going to be very outspoken and say that I have a firm belief that music it should be free. I'm a person and a believer. They're not separate, you know. I enjoy things in this world, and as long as it's not a contradiction to the Word of God, and so yeah, and I want to be able to talk about that stuff and reach people that are not aware of who Jesus is. I want to start that conversation, but I don't want to hide behind it.
Now, you mentioned, you know, people not watching Christian television. I'm going to be honest, completely honest right now. I don't really watch Christian television because a lot of it is not really that good.
Right.
You know, I'm just being 100% right now. A lot of it tends to get redundant because you see the same stories over and over and over again. Like, yeah. Don't get me wrong, it's absolutely great to hear stories where, you know, God delivers people from alcohol and God delivers them from drugs. Well, give me a different story. Give me a story where God saved somebody from a kidnapping or something like that. Just make it better.
Well, I think it comes down to just, like I said, a theological viewpoint that, okay, that it be in the world and not of it. You know, like, I think that means being in the world, bumping shoulders with people, being here, but not compromising our values and being pragmatic or relativistic and saying this culture is going to influence how I think. And so for the person that can't handle television, that can't handle that, like they just personally have a conviction and they can't listen to certain styles of music because it brings them back, man, I support that fully, you know. But I really think that I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, the whole artistic argument, you know, sacred and secular, like, I really am a firm believer that entertainment is okay. It's when entertainment takes over, and I am not then, you know, pursuing Jesus. I'm substituting my relationship with Jesus and just trying to be entertained. I think that's a problem. But to try to make entertainment have to be religious or churchy, I don't want to see that. You know what I mean? I want to appreciate good art, you know, and enjoy it.
See, like, I've heard some stories of where people would get upset with some, like, for example, Trinity 5-7. I don't know if you've heard of them or not, but
yeah, I have.
Along with their message, they also put on a show.
Right.
When they did the Dove Awards a few years ago, they did like an homage to New Orleans, where they're from. They had horns, this whole stage set up, and costumes and the whole bit. And some people gave them flack for putting on a show.
Right.
And that's my thing is, that's what you paid for.
Right.
When you go to a show, you pay for a show. You don't pay for the message because you can get that for free.
Right. You can open up your Word. You can download podcasts. You can do all that stuff. And I definitely think it's just a fine line that an artist has to play. Like, we have to decide what is most important to us. You know, to me, putting on a show is important, but I'm not going to compromise. Like, if I go perform, like me and DJ Promote, if we play at a church, you know, and the kids want to rock out, we're going to rock out. But you better believe, like, if I go there and if I leave and I didn't, like, challenge or there wasn't the moment or the time spent to try to speak life and truth into these kids, and all we did was jump around, then I erred on the side of entertainment, you know. But if I show up and the youth pastor pays me to entertain his kids, and I'm sitting and I talk for 45 minutes, you know, I've erred. I didn't serve them with my gift, I boxed got in and put the weight on me. Now, yes, and it's a never-ending, dialogue for sure. Like, when God moves and calls us to be obedient, then we respond. But to err on the extreme of either side, I think there's nothing wrong with putting on a show. But I think when the show becomes the focus, we have a tendency to get lost in it. So, we as artists have to be careful to not just put on a show, but I think it's just assuming about somebody like we know their heart when we jump to a conclusion to say, oh man, they're just putting on a show, or, it's a bold judgment to make.
So where do you see yourself in about 5 years? Hopefully, there'll be a Be Reith, Jess Caridi collaboration in the future.
I hope for that. We talked about it for sure, and there's a lot of things I intend on doing. Sometimes the difficulty more lies in availability, time, and just it's not like you can say, all right, cool. If we spend 10 hours, we'll come up with the song. But for sure, Jessica Reedy, I feel like right now, I can't really tell what 5 years from now looks like. Part of that's good. Part of that I want to work on. My quickest response is to hope that there is a more consistent stability to where I can have more of an influence. To where I can say, I want to help this person out. And I'm in a position to do so because I'm not trying to, tread water and stay above water myself. Whether that's on the hip-hop side with other hip-hop artists, whether it's a younger kid, or whether, but I definitely hope to be richer in my giving of my talent and my gifts. And I hope for that, and I believe God for that. Sometimes, He calls us to just be in a place of trust to where we don't have it all figured out. We're just living and being where we're at.
So where can your fans reach Be Reith? I found you on, I don't know if it was you that sent it or somebody that worked for Goatee, but I found you a few years ago through MySpace. It was like 2008. I didn't even, funny. It was during the time where I didn't even check it. I just happened to get on one day and saw you sent me a friend request, and I listened to your music and became a fan.
Oh, see, so that stuff works. Okay. Yeah, I don't even know who was running that at the time. You know what I mean? I had like the label. I had a published. So there was this little company that helped for a little while. So I think they did some stuff. But yeah, the easiest spot is home base is bereith.com, which is BREITH.com, and that's where you'll find everything. And then Twitter is B_REITH. And then Facebook, I always forget that one, but you can find it on my website. It's like official Be Reith. There's a couple fake ones, but at the website there's links to everything. So I would start there. The free mixtape is there, How the Story Continues, and then the link to iTunes, and then YouTube. Everything's on there. So bereith.com is the place to go.
Thank you so much, man.
Oh, you're welcome, bro.
I appreciate you taking the time out to do this interview for, this little morning show that's getting off the ground.
Oh, it's all good. I go hard. I put my heart into everything, so it doesn't matter who it's for, man. We got one life to live, so.